Yo, what is going on? Welcome to yet another episode of Reimagining Worship. I am super excited. I'm your host, Trevor Chen. But today I have a dear friend of mine on. I want to kind of set the space and set the tone for him to be able to share his own story and kind of give a background. Because one of the things I wanted to be very clear about is that I don't bring talkers on this show. We're talking about practitioners, people that have been in worship, that have led in different spaces, that have led in other spaces, even outside of worship, that are being creative and innovative in every other space in the church and in the world. So I want to kind of give a chance for you, my good brother Andy, man. If you can kind of give a quick little soliloquy of who you are, where you come from, all that good stuff, man. Man, thanks
Yeah,
for
man.
being
Thanks
on
for.
here, bro. Thank you for your sacrifice. You know, it's Monday. You know, Mondays are the day, so I
Oh
appreciate
man,
your time, man.
this isn't a sacrifice; it's a joy. So thank you, man. I know when we were together a couple of weeks ago in your city and sharing some wings. This just sounded like joy to me. So thank you for it. It's so energizing. I love being with you. I love spending time and I love talking about your heart for worship. And so I
Man,
know what you're doing here is elevating and stewarding what God's given you well. And so
mm,
thanks for letting me be here and speak into it. It's a real gift, man. Thanks for
man,
thanks for how you stirred your teams and how you stirred the church that God's called you to be at.
man.
And then yeah, this space that you're creating, I love that you're facilitating and setting the table for a conversation about things that are important to all of us in the space, in the worship space. So thanks for doing that, man.
Man, I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate that. Real talk. I appreciate that means a lot. That means a whole lot.
Yeah,
See,
man.
that's a whole nother piece, man. See, we got to do a whole section on speaking into, you know what I mean, into people's lives, man. You jokers need encouragement. All right. Anyways, man, can you give a quick what's your background,
Yeah,
instrumentation? What have you been doing? What have you done? And what do you kind of plan to do for the future? And then we'll kind of jump into our topic.
yeah, man. Gosh, where to start? So I grew up in some of my earliest memories. I'm actually from Ireland, so my accent will drift in and out of this weird American Irish brogue. So if you need interpretation or subtitles down here, if you're watching the video, I don't know. We'll work on that for post production. But yeah, I grew up in Ireland. Some of my earliest memories is traveling around with my parents. They were in this what could be best described as like country gospel meets Ireland meets Bill and Gloria Gaither kind of thing, where they would write songs together in their living room with their friends. They would travel around different churches and sing and lead worship and special music more so actually. And so some of my whole formative years, my grandmother played organ in the same church in Ireland for the best part of like 60 years, 70 years of her life. So just a rich heritage of worship and leading the people of God in the worship of God. And that's my background. In Ireland, you don't expect to grow up uh, and be like a paid like worship leader in the church. Like every, you know the cost. There's a cost to it, and we
uh,
all know that cost, right? But
yeah.
um, there's a weird perception, I guess, maybe in in some of the American church. I'd say like if you're getting paid to lead worship and to facilitate Sunday morning, like you're in such a minority of the vast swathe of Christendom throughout
That's
the
real.
world,
That's real, bro.
And so if you're
Talk
out there
about it.
listening and you're like, man, I'm trying to hold down a job, two jobs, local church well and faithfully, like that's my background. Like I'm with you. Um, but anyway, my story kind of changed. I went to had the blessing of going to university in Ireland. I did my postgraduate in architecture, and then after that, I actually came to the States to learn how to lead worship because that was what really my first love was. Learn how to raise up worship leaders and lead worship and serve the church better. And then I just ended up meeting a girl here, and then I never left, and the Lord kept opening up doors. And so, spent the best part of the last 8 years down in Southwest Florida at a church down there called Summit Church, and then recently moved back to Atlanta, and I'm now working with a company called Catapult, and we really just exist to serve
Yes.
Christian, not-for-profit, 501c3s, churches, and really helping them innovate what they do and then scale what they do. And so been a real privilege. I'm still leading worship in a couple of churches in the Atlanta area. Shout out to everyone at Sojourn Woodstock and also the Square Church and all of my people all right there. So
That's good stuff,
yeah, that's kind of the
man.
story.
That's good stuff, man. Hey, shout out to Catapult. You know, this episode is sponsored by. I'm just joking. They're not. But
I mean, we could,
in a sense, you know what I mean. In a sense, in a
in
sense,
a sense, yeah,
gotta
we
show
can
them
do it.
love, man. Gotta show them love, bro. That is good, man. Well,
Yeah,
listen,
man.
I want to jump right in. And if I'm not mistaken, we have the privilege of hearing from you from two different topics. But the first one that we really wanted to talk about today, and we've talked about this, Marva Dawn is someone that kind of helped shape my early worship philosophy of ministry. And I really appreciate it. I mean, now the book's a little bit older, but if you want to check them out, check them out. But there's like Reaching Out Without Dumbing Down, Royal Waste of Time, something on Sabbath and stuff like that. But it's really the Reaching Out Without Dumbing Down that kind of led us to this conversation here, is because she was really talking about how to create times and moments and space in the Sunday worship gathering to be able to hear from God, to be able to settle down, to be able to quiet our hearts. But on the other hand, I think we've seen that go extreme to one side. But then on the other hand, we have the people that are like, no, listen, the song is 4 minutes and 53 seconds long. This song is going to happen at 11:06. It's going to be done by 11:10 and 53 seconds because we got a 7-second bumper to get us to. So I mean, so it can seem like there could be this dichotomy, and I appreciate the works of both, but I've also seen both go wrong. So shout out to you. Can you give us? You said it very nicely. Can you give us the title of today's episode, man?
Oh man, no, there's pressure to remember that. So the title of today's episode is The Prophetic versus Production. I think, is that the title?
It's that you did it. You gave it to me. You made the title.
I mean, I can be good in the moment. Just don't expect me to remember, man. I mean,
but
that's
there's
where
a
it starts to fall
space.
apart.
I'm with you, man. But yo, there's a space in worship, and one of the things for me, Amon Shumpert was talking about this. Was talking about LeBron James and how LeBron is kind of navigates through the court and how he sees. I mean, his court vision is ridiculous, and how he essentially moves the players on the court like chess pieces for the most optimal outcome. And like he's watching each player, he's watching the point guard, he's watching, asking people, telling people to cut. He's other people. So and he's watching the entire game happen before it happens, and like that for me. That's what I'm saying that Sunday morning for worship leaders. Like, now it sounds kind of scattered, but that for me is like you're seeing where the worship team is, where the vocalists are. You're making sure that the hits or the transitions for the band are in place, like all that kind of stuff. And so, but how then can you also kind of leave time for that prophetic, leave time for that space for the Holy Spirit to move, leave time for prayer or intercessory, like whatever the case may be. So that's what I kind of wanted to talk about today. What are the two extremes, and how can we marry the two so we can say production and prophetic, and not and not verse? So,
Yeah, dude, I love this topic. I have so much love for both. That I think when we put them at odds to one another, and we do a disservice, I think, to both. And but I do think I love that picture of, like, I'm not good with basketball specific illustrations, but I can see it. And growing up in Ireland, actually, this is a side note. If we misbehaved in school, we got punished by being made to play basketball. Like, they would be like, "Hey, if you guys don't stop messing up," they'd be like, "If you guys don't stop right now, this tomfoolery that y'all are doing,
you guys are gonna
we're
go
gonna make
outside.
you play. You got to go outside and play basketball for recess." We'd be like, "Please, no, we repent. We're so sorry."
Yo,
Anyway, Serious, true story. Anyway, but I know I get that picture, and I think so much of what we're doing as worship leaders, worship pastors on a Sunday morning is trying to balance all of those things. I think that's why it's so emotionally, mentally, physically draining.
Yeah.
And because if you're being intentional in the space that God's given you to steward, and you're thinking through all of those different levels, um, it takes mental energy, it takes spiritual energy, it takes emotional energy, and if you're not like bringing those things in servitude to the church and the body that God's given you, then I don't know if you're really taking the task that you've been given seriously. Um,
Ah,
uh, and I mean, I was leading yesterday, and I like got to lunch with people, and I was like, I'm just gonna need a second to space out. just as I just need to get, just take a second to breathe,
yeah.
because it is in all of those ways where we're leaning in like this. The sad thing about the church in the West, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's the church everywhere. That's just where I know, right? But the sad thing is we've created this idea that the platform is some sort of beguiling, beautiful like thing, and it is.
Mm,
It's a place of it is. It's a place of blessing, of honor, sure, but dude, it's a place of servitude
yeah.
and like a death to my preferences, death to my like to what I want to do, the songs I want to pick, like would I have picked if I was working off preferences, would I pick the songs for this Sunday that I just did? No. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
did I
Yeah.
do
Yeah. Yeah.
songs I didn't love? Did I do songs I don't love? Yeah, sure, I did, but it was because it's for the people. And so
Yeah.
I do think I
That's a
think
good
so much
word.
of our yeah, I think so much of our energy, man, has got to be like when I think like maybe you're on the other side of this and you're asking yourself the question, well, how do I grow? And if this is like trying to be, Michael Jordan or LeBron James on Sunday morning, how do I grow in this? Like that feels overwhelming, man. You
Mm,
just kind of laid down a challenge there that I can't get over. That's too high a bar. I'm like, no, you know, there's grace for you, right? There's grace
yeah.
for you because, and there's time because Lord knows for years I just didn't have the eyes to see all of the stuff that was happening in the room, and all I could do was like focus on getting from D to G in my capo 3 because B flat, Lord help me, there's no way I'm and so there's grace for wherever you're at, but know that you put it in the work and the effort. And I think this is where the production piece speaks into this. Like you putting in the effort to craft and hone your skills, and to know like, hey, if I'm gonna modulate between this key to this key, that's gonna sound like someone just died because those two keys are dissonant in these two songs. Like in how you're thinking about stitching the set together, those transitional moments, how you're encouraging the people, like doing the work, of everything right down to the craft of your instrument. That is basically you. That's like your practice and the framework from which you can then jump.
That's good.
Um, you know, and if you're not willing to do that work, and it doesn't matter if it's going to take you like 5 years of hard work, or if it's just going to take a little bit of an additional intentionality. Like if you're not building out a framework of excellence and competency, and being able to hear from God in the moment, and being able to be obedient, and being able to like really know your instrument, and knowing how to lead other people in both like organized practice time and spontaneously in the moment. um, if you're not learning how to read the room, how to respond to a moment, I'm sure I'm missing some pieces, but if you just don't memorize your lyrics, my gosh, if you just don't take the time to memorize your lyrics and like know like and hear the chord transitions that are coming and knowing the charts just in your mind, like so much of my time whenever I was leading worship, in my younger years, in my my late teens, early 20s, was taken up. The mental space was taken up with what's the next chord, what's
Yeah.
the next lyric, and now it's moved to a place where I've grown in competency enough. I'm not nothing terribly special, but I've grown in competency enough, and I can sit within my skill set to be able to ask the question, God, what are you doing in this moment?
Yeah.
Like all of my work, all of my diligence in that production piece is giving me the space to ask those prophetic questions. It's giving me the space to like lean in and ask God, what are you doing in the room right now? Like, what's going on over there in that corner? Like, what's the thing that you want to say over the people right now? And so I think what I'm trying to say in a really long, drawn out way, which is my, which is my currency, by the way. Get to the point, right? Is like all of the production stuff, and the personal work that we're doing and honing our craft is actually creating space for us to a starting point for us to jump in the moment and follow the Lord's leading and be more prophetic and spontaneous. Um,
I think one of the things
yeah.
that you said, even building off of this LeBron James thing, it's not that. Um, how can I say this? If LeBron wasn't clear about what was happening, his court vision would be limited. Like he wouldn't be able to do that.
Mm,
But that happens with practice. That happens with time.
mhm,
That happens with watching tape. So he's able to be in the moment, and he's not thinking
mhm,
about the mechanics of his shot because he's taking 1,000 of them before the game. He's going to take 1,000 after the game. It's not what he's doing.
mhm,
He's watching enough tape. So in to your point, like it's the time of I need to know this song. So even in the back of my mind, like I'm not thinking about this. This isn't something like,
mhm,
and that's where it gets hard. Like we don't have the luxury of thinking about the song on
mhm.
Sunday morning. Like that's not the space for us to be able to do that. We do that
Oh
throughout
no,
the
yeah.
week, so we
Mhm,
have the space to be able to sit, to be, and even kind of just like like there's been times when I've been able to just to like lay on the one and just kind of just allow the
oh yeah,
team just to do their thing, and I can kind of just sit back and be in the moment and even feel out this next transition. Like, like,
that's awesome.
do we need to
Yeah.
push in? Do we need to push in deeper here, or like, are they have they had it? Have they had enough? Yeah, you know what I mean. Can we land this plane? But that's because of the time, energy, and practice and all that good stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and here's the question. Like, do you want to be a really great leader of songs, or do you want to be a pastor of people and a
Ooh,
pastor of like, and do you want to like steward the presence of God well? Like, because if you just want to be a really great leader of songs, then this doesn't matter, and you don't have to press in, you don't have to work in that craft, you don't have to do the work. Are you okay?
yeah, man. You're talking right. That's a good word, man. That's a good word. Do you want to be a leader of songs or a pastor of people? That's
Yeah,
it, man. I think that's the question. Whew, that's good. I
yeah.
mean me cut you off. I'm sorry. You was talking, man.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. And here's the other piece. I think I love that picture, man. I love that you're in a place in a community where you've got the space for other people to like shoulder that burden with you. My gosh, I love that when that happens. When there's someone else who's like leaning in with you and sees the spiritual landscape as well. Um, uh, I think there's something in that moment, even for us, like the humility to ask God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I always ask two questions in that moment. Here's the questions I'm always asking the Lord. God, what are you doing right now? And what do you want me to do about it?
Mm,
That's the constant like communication that I'm trying to cultivate. And honestly, sometimes it's crickets, guys. Like you're leading worship and you're like, it's crickets and I'm being faithful. That's enough, right? That's
yeah.
good. And sometimes it's like sometimes I'm leading worship like, God, what are you doing? And it feels like I'm getting like a download or whatever word you use for that. That doesn't feel too charismatic for you. Just insert your word here. Whatever word feels safe, right? Prompting, an impression.
Impression. Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Whatever word feels good for
General
you.
revelation.
A
General
general revelation.
revelation.
A direct download from the throne room. I don't know, whatever it is. But yeah, but sometimes that's happening, and I'm like, God, what do you want me to do about that? And He's like, nothing. I just want to let you know.
Mm,
Um, or maybe he'll be like, just linger, or maybe it comes out in a prophetic song, spontaneous song. Maybe it comes out in a prayer, like a more pastoral prayer. Um, and what in your culture is appropriate. Like
yeah.
there's places that I lead where if I started like singing in tongues and I don't know, like make like just going way off the script, that wouldn't work necessarily. In fact, it would be very detrimental to the environment. But but in those places, like some of the most, I'm praying super pointed pastoral prayers in that moment, and those
That's
some of those
good.
transitions, or maybe at the end of the set. And so I'm just always asking the Lord. But here's what I would say. Here's a principle for that moment. Like anytime you open your mouth in a worship set to say something, you're saying, "Hey, everyone, come over here, listen to this.
Mm,
This is important. And God help you if what you're about to say isn't either going to take them deeper or redirect them to where the Spirit's leading us.
that's good.
Like, because if you open your mouth and you like take people away from this moment that collectively them as a church or them as an individual is communing with the Lord. Like that's the beauty of being together. Like we're in this space. There's the beauty of the one anothering, right? But there's also like the Spirit of God is doing a unique thing in that unique time in that unique place. That's why COVID sucked, like because like God was still doing a unique thing in a unique time in a unique place in all the places. But
Yeah.
when we're together as the body, there's just a different relationship with the bride or a head and a body or a bride and a bridegroom than there is with a son and a daughter. And so I felt like we missed that that different
Yeah.
type of anointing and that different type of essence. But if we're gonna in those moments say to everyone, hey, I've got something good to say, listen up here. Like what you're gonna say in that moment has to take them deeper or redirect them to where the Lord is moving into something different of where he actually wants us to go as a people of God. So those are just some guiding principles. That's what to ask. So what to ask, like, God, what are you doing? What do you want me to do about it? And if you are going to speak, I don't mean to like overweight it, but make sure you're taking people deeper or you're redirecting them to where you think the Lord is leading. And here's the thing. It's okay to mess it up. It's okay to screw it up. Like you're gonna get it wrong a couple of thousand times.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah.
whenever you feel like you're like hitting you're like making contact more than you're missing, you're still gonna mess it up. And there's grace for that. But I think the Lord honors that faith to step out so much. I think like he delights in that humility and that faith in those moments when you do step out.
Bro, there's something that you said that I really wanted to double back on. Well, I guess in summation, like you have to watch your words. Like you have to be intentional about what you say.
Hmm.
I've been at numerous church planting like workshops or seminars or whatever the case may be, and like sitting next to pastors, and then the worship leader would be up there, and they would just be talking, and it's almost like because well for the Enneagram folk, it's like in a lot of times or sometimes you have a lot of four energy for our work for our
Hmm.
creatives, and it's almost like they're when they start off they're trying to get you on the same emotional place that they are that they've been preparing for,
Hmm.
and it's like
Oh
yo,
yeah.
like don't force this moment. And in 9 times out of 9 cases I've heard grumbling like, man, yo, just shut up and sing the song. And like I feel that it's like, oh man, like I've heard that with my own ears about worship leaders.
Mm.
So but said that to say there's also was a space to be able to pastor and
Mm.
lead in this um
Oh yeah.
in that moment, and to not miss the moments, like to not brush by them.
Mm.
I had a weird one, man. I'll be honest with you. We're in a just kind of a unique season. A lot of good, a lot of transition. Trying to get back from COVID hasn't been like we just started getting back in September of this past year, and
Hmm.
um, we arrive on Sundays at 9 a.m. and we have like
Hmm.
45 minutes to set up an entire sanctuary from
Mm.
chairs and from a trailer to try to give the worship team 45 minutes to run through between 9:45 and 10:30.
Hmm.
And
It's hard, bro.
bro, it's super hard. Well, a few weeks ago, um, man, we were running behind on the setup. That was the first big piece. I
Hmm.
was super frustrated. It's like 10 o'clock. We're just sitting down on this music. Microphones are just getting turned on. I'm like, we got 30 minutes.
Hmm.
We got 30 minutes. We're still kind of frazzled. The drummer's still tightening things
Mm.
up, and man, we started to play. I don't even remember what song it was, man, but it was one of the it was the second of our three songs that we were gonna play, just because I wanted to tighten stuff up there, and man, it was just like there was a sense where I was like, Lord was like, yo, just stay here, and man, we worshipped
Mm.
in that one song. I mean, we transitioned. We did a couple other like hymns, as like old rugged cross got thrown in there, but like
Come
there
on.
was something. It was like, man, like stay in this moment. You're not going to get the rehearsal that you want to get. So would I
Mm.
rather sacrifice,
Yeah.
uh, you know what I mean? Sacrifice and like hope for the best for the other two songs.
Mm-hmm.
And in that day, in that moment, everyone was kind of tense. But in that moment, it was like the Lord was like,
Yeah.
"Yo, like, stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens with the other songs happens. But like this, it's important for the worship team and even some of the volunteers that
Mm-hmm.
were in the room to be in this moment right now. Like
That's
that was
awesome,
it,
bro.
man. And it
That's
was
sweet. What a
like
sweet moment.
it was, man, folk were like it was a great time of worship, man. Just in that, like I said, in that, I mean, in that 30-minute slot, and I know that it was from
Mm-hmm.
God because the set didn't go off. The song that we spent 30 minutes to play on, it didn't go well during the service. I was like, oh, all right, this wasn't for y'all. This is for the worship team. You know what I mean?
For us,
This was
yeah.
for the I
Yeah.
mean, this was for us. So but then even being able to communicate, long story short, to even be able to communicate the wording piece, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, watching your words. Because now at that moment, I was able to even communicate, like, listen, we could have rushed through this and like it would have been good and feel on your shoulders for a second and then you move on. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, nah, like I wanted for us to kind of just steep
Mm.
in this moment right here. Forget all of the high production stuff and
Well,
but
dude,
again,
I
oh,
love
go
that
ahead.
even. I love that even as a principal, man. I think like where are the spaces for you to like dip your feet in the river?
Mhm.
And I mean that's an example of like your team and you and some people that have got a high tolerance for failure. Like
Mm,
if that moment had fallen apart, they would have been fine and they would have still been there next Sunday setting up.
yeah.
Um, but can you and some of you out there maybe are thinking like, my gosh, this sounds great, but there's nowhere in my community for me to practice this. Like we're so far from there. Well, where's a safe place, like a safe like a safe place that you could cultivate and start and steward, where you could dip your toe in the river of this, because sometimes I know I've been in places where you know Sunday morning is the untouchable. Like you don't mess with Sunday morning.
Yes,
So find a
sir.
different find a different place where there's not quite this. Sunday morning might be the sacred cow a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
find a different space to play in.
Yeah, two of the things that we just started, because I'll be honest with you, I find rehearsal very important, but I
Hmm.
also see the monotonous nature and how it can drain a team. So I
Hmm.
was like, you know what if we can reframe some of this stuff into like, yo, like having worship nights for worship teams, you know what I mean, and even be able to
Hmm.
develop relationships with other churches and other worship leaders that are able to kind of come through and worship together, be in the space,
Hmm.
feel the feels, all that kind of good stuff. But the other part is even transforming some of it to be we do like a vocal workshop twice a month, where it's
Hmm.
like these are spaces that we're learning the techniques so we can kind of those can kind of be second nature. So when we get to those spaces of worship,
Oh yeah.
man, like we've gone through the techniques, we've gone through the mechanics. Like everyone should be coming to the table at least a little bit
Yeah.
more comfortable than they were before.
That's good, man. Working that muscle memory. That was the word I was trying to think of earlier. Like
Uh,
if you can make muscle memory of knowing your chords, knowing your lyrics, like making space to do the real work of leading.
yeah.
Like there's the real work of the pastor to be done and the real work of the prophet. I don't know, take whatever the fivefold you want to say, but there's some real work to be done there. And so often as musicians, we're so distracted by the details and the minutia. Like the details and the minutia are important, but they're the thing that enable us to. If those things are settled, if we've given time to thought and intentionality in those places, then we can really do the real work of pastoring the people on Sunday morning. So I love that, man.
So one last question for you. So
Hmm.
from a practical standpoint, we've talked about. So we already have three essentially that I've been jotting down. Um,
Hmm.
the one is asking God, "What are you doing right now, and what do you want me to do with it?" The second one is
Mm-hmm.
watch. The second one is watch your words. Like be intentional with
Mm-hmm.
what you carry to take people deeper and to kind of hold court and bring folk around the
Mm-hmm.
campfire. And another one was create a space. If Sunday morning isn't the space, create a space outside of
Mm-hmm.
Sunday morning to be able to do this. But like, what's one more? Like, I just I don't know how
Well,
to
I think
even begin this.
the other one is like work the fundamentals. We said that a little earlier too. Like I
Yes.
think that was the first one. Like that's like the LeBron piece and like the practice piece. Um, and like be willing to fail is a big thing, bro. We kind of mentioned that. Um, I think
That's good.
I think there's so much good there. Like I could go into some details of other practical things that you can do. Um, I think another really practical thing that I have is I have a talkback like switcher on my board that I
Yes.
use. Like that's super helpful. And so I have that routed to that talkback switcher is going to the booth. It's going to the ears of my band. And my like guys in the booth know if I'm doing this at any point in the set, like they know like to pick up those cans and put it above their ear, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna drop into High Marvelous right now, and like so if you
Yeah.
can throw that on the screen, like so even the prophetic, those more prophetic or spontaneous moments, or like even I'm like, hey, I feel like the Lord's doing something, I'm gonna just, if we can just sit and like go from the 1-1-5-4 circle on that, and like that gives space for you to like sing something, or I'll let them know I'm going to sing something that's not that's off the page, so they're not sitting at the back going like
Yeah.
looking like crazy, like being upset, or even the band behind me like being
That's
like,
one
what
of
the
my
heck is he doing?
weaknesses.
Because do you know do you know what the worst thing is? Like whenever you use the worship leader, like I got this, I know where to go, and you like step out in the moment, and your bass player plays a, I don't know, plays a 4, and you're playing like a 7 or something. You're just like, that 4/7 ain't working so great here. Um,
Yeah, no,
or I guess it would be
I
a
like
7. I
that,
guess it'd be a
man.
7/4. Would it be a 7/4? Anyway, never mind.
Yeah, yeah,
But you know what I mean? Like, but even me jumping in the ear. So yesterday I was jumping in the ears. I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna do this right. I feel like we need to pause here and just rest. But if they don't know that, like I would watch back video, and like the band were just like, what's he doing right now? Like just like it just puts everybody at peace, and like it
that's
just
good.
cultivates that peace. Um and and so then like the people, the congregation, the people that were leading, like if the worst thing is like you're sitting like, or you're standing like engaging in worship, you look up and you see like the entire band look like they're all freaking out because they're not one, they're not united in that moment.
Yeah.
So I know that's super detailed and super specific. My favorite is the radial shot box. If you've got a powered microphone, like that needs phantom power, that is the one to get, because if you don't, it's going to pop every time you hit that momentary switch.
Oh,
So that's a little like the phantom power is built into that box, so
got it.
so the box power in the mic. And so some of the other ones like throne room pedals, if you've got like a Beta 58 or a SM58 or one of those other ones that aren't powered, um, it'll be fine. Like a throne room one will be
Yeah.
fine, or one of the other brands. But if you've got like a powered mic, like a Beta 87A or something like that, like it's gonna pop every time you hit
Every
that
time you
switch
switch it,
in the
got
front
it.
half. Yeah,
Got it.
and it has a latch on there too. Gosh, we're going into way details. I'm 5 and 8 right now. You mentioned Enneagram earlier. I'm giving
No,
you details of this
yeah.
pedal, but
No. But not that I'm writing down because that's helpful. Because I'll be honest, that's one of my weak points. Like
mm,
I'm good for, just roll with me. And so
mm-hmm,
usually it's my wife and I that are leading, and
mm-hmm,
then she does well to kind of prepare the vocalist.
mm-hmm.
And but for the band, it's part of that I want to argue is a cultural thing, but the other piece is like I've went places and jokers is like have zero idea where you're going. I'm like, yo, just in my mind, I promise you,
Times
they
I,
know what that means. You supposed to know what key that is, but it doesn't happen like that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like that
yeah.
has been that's
Oh,
something that
dude.
has been a
I
weakness.
mean, like if I'm calling like chord progressions as well, with like one,
Exactly.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Six is them. 7. Like I mean, that's super helpful for band. Like going back to the bridge, chorus, top of the song.
Yeah.
Like develop some cues for your band. Like and guys know if I'm doing this, I'm like cut out at the next phrase. Like this means like hard pull out in the next phrase. There's ways and cues and things that you can even like non-verbals that you can develop as well.
Yeah.
I guess that's another little tip, but develop your communication. I guess that's the principle right here. Develop your communication with your team. There we go. We find it. I knew we'd find it.
Again, because you said something, I do want to double back real quick, and we're gonna land this plane. But bro,
this is about to be 4 episodes.
I'm telling you, man. You mentioned something. You said the spirit moves in our preparation, and then the other piece was about you leading your team, saying like, all right, well, what are we gonna play in that 5-minute slot? Like, just roll with me. There has to be, well, one, the spirit moves in preparation. You have to allow the spirit to. You have to give space for the spirit to be able to move in your preparation. So a lot of that looks like spending time, even your own, in prayer and in sitting in those moments. But the other piece is, if your team doesn't know that you're following the Lord, and again, I'm not saying from a cliche standpoint. I'm not saying follow me as I follow Christ. I'm saying from a space of like, yo, if Andy is saying this, then he's heard from the Lord. Like, so I'm down. Like, I'm gonna trust him, and that's even goes back to the leader of songs versus pastoring people. Like, I have to be settled in my soul and know that, like, I know Andy got this from the Lord, and I'm gonna do this because I'm believing that as he follows Jesus, I'm doing the same. So I appreciate that, man, and even just the willingness for you to be able to do that. Some of those to go full circle. All jokes aside, and we didn't talk about this, but the first practical thing that Marva Dawn gave in reaching out without dumbing down was to allot a space in the worship service to give 5 to 10 minutes. I think she might have said 15 minutes, but she said, but it was something drastic. But giving that space in the service time to be able to be quiet, hear from God, and just be. You know what I mean? Like we don't do that well. Everything has to be a video or a pad or man, I appreciate you. We are gonna land this plane. We do have you for one more, but man, I do want to say, man, like the way you talk about worship kind of stirs my affection for Jesus and even my desire to even want to lead and continue in this fight, man. And I pray that someone that might have been kind of on the fence or feeling frustrated in that worship space, which I know that we can all feel, I pray that they were encouraged by what you had to say, because I surely was, man. I appreciate it. Listen, I'm taking notes. See, you can't even see. I'm over here taking notes, Doc. Y'all can't see it. It's all good. But thanks again for listening to. Hey, listen, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Reimagine the worship.
Thanks for
Yeah. No, thank you,
bro. Thanks for having me. I love what you're doing here.
Thank you, man. Yo, listen, until next time.